Introduced in late 2000 for the 2001 model year, Toyota debuted its Highlander midsize SUV to join the lineup with their smaller SUVs, the RAV4 and the 4Runner. This is the third generation Highlander, specifically a 2018 in the XLE trim. This is still a midsize family SUV, 3 rows, to compete with the likes of Honda Pilot, Ford Explorer, and Nissan Pathfinder. Today, we're going to take a walk around this 2018 Highlander. We're going to look at all of its features, styling, interior, exterior, and powertrain. We'll take it on the road to see how it drives, so y'all can put the Highlander on your list of midsize SUVs to consider. Let's start first on the outside and talk about the styling. Now, this particular body style spanned from the 2014 to 2019 model years. It was redesigned for 2020, and here in 2021, the design has not yet changed. However, this style, I think, still holds up even in 2020. I mean, it's still pretty recent. This is an 18. Walk around, you see we have a big grille area. We have the flat Toyota badge, which houses the radar for the cruise control behind it. As you can see in the front headlights, you have your daytime running lamps, which are shared with the high beam bulbs. They're dim when they're running lamps. If you were to step all the way up to the limited trim, you would receive an LED running lamp strip that runs along the bottom half of the headlight. Coming around the side here, we have 14 spoke, 18-inch alloy wheels. These are very good looking. I like the way these look. If you step up to the higher trims, especially the limited and the limited platinum, you're going to get a 5-spoke chrome rim. I think they said chrome look, but it is chrome-ish. Shiny, nice rims. But I do like these better. I think these are a much better wheel. Walking down the side of the car, it's your typical 3-row SUV layout. Walk around back, a nice set of taillights, LED taillights. Here we have the taillight strip. It runs all the way across, and then you do have the brake lights that light up in this pod right here. Here we can see it is an XLE all-wheel drive. If you step up to higher trims, especially again like the limited platinum, you're going to get more chrome accents on the back. You see we do have some chrome on the side here, but one way you can distinguish them other than the badging is there will be a chrome outline around these rear reflectors. You've got the tow hitch, which did not come, at least on this one, from the factory. I'm sure you could have gotten it as a factory option. I did install that. It was very simple to install. I've got a video up on that. I'll throw that in a card here right about now, so if you want to go click on it and watch that. And all the videos on the Highlander will be in a playlist because this is our vehicle. On the side, same thing, driver's passenger. Nothing too striking, but just a very good looking 3-row midsize SUV. One of my favorite features, and my wife's as well, on the back of the Highlander is the presence of a window glass that opens. So with the key in your pocket or the engine running, just tap the button and you can lift up just the glass, which is convenient for just throwing small things in the back, you know, like that, and then just close it back. The interesting thing here is there is a wiper integrated into the window. And the way they went about this was not to mount a giant motor on the back of the window, but instead for there to be a peg on the back of it that mates up with this right here. So your motor's right here and just mates up with this, and this actually turns back and forth to let the wiper move. And interestingly, you can actually turn this on and watch this little thing move back and forth. I don't know why. I think it's cool, but you can. Also on the outside, we do have heated mirrors, and we have tinted glass all the way around, except for the windshield, of course, to enable for a little bit more privacy and, to try to cut down on the heat inside the car during the summertime. Tinted glass all the way around from the factory. Kind of typical for modern cars, but I still think it's worth noting because it's a really nice thing to have. All right, now we're going to go into the Highlander, but first let me show you all the key. This is your key fob. It's a very simple fob. It's got 4 buttons on it. Some Highlanders, I think, of higher trims or with more options, do have some hidden features in the buttons that allow you to do remote start. This one does not. But if we walk up to the car, much like most modern cars, you just put your hand on the back of the handle, and it's got the sensors for you to unlock the doors. And then if you want to lock it back, these 2 lines right here, that's actually a touch sensor. So just touch it, and the doors lock back. Go again, and we can open the door. Now starting on the interior with the door panel, you can actually see there's quite a lot going on this door panel, especially with colors. So you've got a lot of, you know, black up at the top and kind of in the middle. You got a little bit of blue trim that runs along where the grab handle is. Nice silver chrome-like strip up there. Not necessarily chrome, but a nice silver finish. And you get the same finish on your door handle, or your door opener rather. Here you do have all the power options for your mirrors and your windows and your locks. Auto windows up front and normal windows in the back, but you do have 2 auto up and down windows in the front. One small annoyance with the Highlander's power windows, and it was the same thing with our 2012 Nissan Quest when we had it, is the window lockout. So right now, here I've turned it off, so every window can be controlled from its own door. And I can even control the passenger window, just like that, like I'm supposed to be able to, right? But now, we're gonna lock out. And now, I cannot control the other windows. I don't know why, but with this and with that Quest, and I can only assume with other Toyota and Nissan models, the window lockout disables the driver's ability to control those windows. I do not understand that. It annoys me. It's just one of them little things about these Japanese brands that I've experienced so far that I just do not understand. To the left of the steering wheel, we have multiple buttons. We have our switch to turn our auto high beams on and off. This is for your auto start stop. If that annoys you, you hit that to turn that off. Here's for your rear lift gate. Press and hold that to open it. And this, I'm assuming, is for rear defoggers. Down here, way down here, we have the button to open the fuel door. It is a power fuel door, so that's where that's located. Right here in the middle, we have this little storage cubby, which is perfect for throwing small things in, like if you got cards or change or literally anything little you just want to be put away, you don't want it flying around or not visible. Perfect little place to put small stuff. You know, here we have like, here's our Weigel's gas card. We can just throw that in there, and it's a great little hidey hole. And on the right side of the wheel is your engine start stop button. Hit that. Turn this thing on, get some AC going in here. Here on the steering wheel are your controls for phone and infotainment. So here we have our volume up and down. This will change stations and tracks. This is radio mode, also hold for mute. This is for your voice commands. And here's your phone answer and hang up buttons. On the right side is all the controls used to control your center information screen in the dash. So here we have, of course, our directional pad, our selection button, our back button. And here we have a couple of safety systems. So here's for your radar cruise control or adaptive cruise control. Here's for your lane keeping assist and lane departure warning. And down here on the back side of the steering wheel is our controls for the cruise control. Your gauge cluster, you have just a typical tachometer. It's got a almost 7,000 RPM red line. You got everything that you need here. You got your temp and your gas and your speedo that goes up to 140, which we haven't tried that yet. And then here we have the center information screen. Now in the lowest trim models, being the SE, and I think maybe 1 or 2 above that, this was not full color. Once you step up to higher trims like the XLE and above, then you're going to get a full color display. So here we're on the very first page. You see the outside temperature. Right now it's showing the MPGs. This little bar will show you about what you're getting at any given time. And of course there's your average fuel economy. Right now, after the last reset, we usually reset whenever we fill the tank. It shows we're getting about 22 to the gallon. Scroll down in this menu, and as you can see, when you start moving around in menus, the temperature is replaced by the row of icons up here. So if we move down to the next one, here we have our current fuel range. Yes, it's kind of low. Go here, this will give you your overall miles, and you can reset it. Eco indicator, so you can keep track of just how economically you're driving. All-wheel drive control is kind of cool to watch because on the ones that have the all-wheel drive, which this one does, this will tell you, pretty much tell you where the power is going. Is it mostly to the front wheels? Is it going to, all 4 or what? And usually if you're cruising on the highway, especially in cruise, and you're going downhill, you can see there'll be none lit up, or it might just apply a little bit to the front to keep speed up. Here we have sway warning, which is kind of useful and works in conjunction with the lane departure warning and lane keep assist. So it's got this little ascending bar here, and the more you sway, the more it has to warn you and correct you the further this thing moves. And once it gets all the way over here, it tells you, hey, it's time to take a break. So it kind of alerts you, hey man, you're getting kind of tired, maybe stop and
get some, I don't know, coffee? Like the icon there. Down here, I'm not sure what's supposed to be there, but it is blank. We'll go over one. I don't think that's ever displayed information. It might display information when driving. This, of course, is for your music. Will tell you what's playing on the radio. Little display for the cruise and lane departure. Here's your auto start stop information, tell you how much time it's been running. You can change settings on that. So change settings for auto start stop. You can extend it if you want to. I don't feel like even using auto start stop. Here's one your message display. And then there's various other modes in here. So here's, of course, your lane departure assistant again, pre-collision, blind spot monitoring, power mode, which is supposed to give a little bit more oomph, if you will, for acceleration and passing or climbing hills. More auto start stop stuff, language, units, and eco mode, which let's see how many people use that. I've not figured these out yet. Pop-up display, you can turn on and off what you want to see pop up at any given time. So there's for your navigation, phone, auto start top duration and status, brightness. And then, of course, now you can also do this. You can also go and you can change the color theme in your infotainment and whatnot. So here, right now, it's set on the darker blue. And if we go over to the infotainment, you can see the text, such as up here, is in that color. So if we move back over, and let's go and select this orangish color here. Select, come back over, and now everything that was blue is now that color. So it does give you 4 color options to choose from. We just keep it on this one. Speed warning, you can set up a speed warning if you want to. You say you're driving on an interstate or something, the speed limit's 75, and you want to say, warn me when I get above that, you can do that. We don't ever use that. And of course, you can set up your scheduled maintenance data. And back to the beginning. Ignore this light. This is the TPMS light. One of our tires has an extremely slow leak, and it finally got down enough to light that up, but that's fine. I'll put a couple pounds in it, and it'll be good to go again. Another neat thing I like about the center information screen in the gauge cluster, let's zoom in on that just a little bit. If you open a door, it gives you a little rear view picture of an actual Highlander. This is not just it is an actual Highlander. It's got all the right shapes and the taillights and everything. And it shows you a little animation of the door opening. Close it back, and the door closes. And then, of course, it goes away. It will show when literally anything on the outside of the car is open. So I've got the hood open right now, and as you can see, it has the graphic of the hood also being open. And now I've opened the rear hatch, and as you can see, it shows the hatch being open. And if you can tell, it still maintains all the shapes of the actual design of the rear hatch on the car. And it will also show when just the rear glass is open. So here we can see the tailgate is closed, which it is, and I've opened the rear glass, and it shows that. And it's even detailed. Right here is the little hump where the wiper motor is situated in the rear door. And here's the rear wiper. Very detailed graphic there. I just really love that attention to detail. You know, it's not an expensive luxury car. They didn't have to do that, but they did, and I really enjoyed it. And just for fun, here it is showing everything on the car opened up. On the left side of the wheel, you do have your signal stalk with your lighting controls. And on the right side, you have the wiper stalk for front and rear wipers. Interestingly, whereas most cars have 5, 6, 7 different intermittent speed settings, this only has 3. 1, 2, 3. I don't know, I've never seen one. I guess 4. But I think other than the Isuzu box truck I drove a couple years ago that had no intermittent settings, this is probably the least amount of intermittents I've seen on any car that I've personally been in. But I don't know, kind of interesting to see that. All right, now here, front and center, of course, as in all most vehicles from this time period, you do have your touchscreen infotainment. Now, interestingly, these buttons on the side here are capacitive touch. They are not actual buttons. You can touch them and go to different things. Here's various apps. You've got messages and phone and audio, and it does have built-in navigation. Of course, you can have maintenance schedules. Let's go home. Up here to settings. Here's just your general settings, Bluetooth, display settings, You got driver easy speak for voice commands, and it will actually also read text messages to you, and you can dictate text message replies to the car. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's not. Over here we do have here's some vehicle settings, which is not very many. This isn't the most advanced system with all kinds of vehicle settings in it, but here we have vehicle customization. You got your door lock settings, climate lights, other vehicle settings. If we go into here, you can adjust how far your back hatch opens, and you set it to 5 different levels. So say you park it in a garage, or you regularly park in a parking garage where the ceiling is too low for you to raise the door up all the way without damaging it. You can set how far it opens, or maybe you only ever want it to open just so far, whatever. You can set how far you open that. Let's get out of that before I change some settings and make the wife upset. Light settings, you can turn on your headlamps sensitivity, your auto high beams, and your daytime running lights and interior lights timer and stuff like that. So all typical stuff for modern cars. We'll back out of that. You do have your typical AM FM CD player. You do still get a CD player in this in 2018. And of course you have Bluetooth, which is the handiest thing. That's pretty much all we ever use is the Bluetooth. This does not come with Apple CarPlay or Android Auto, so that is one way in which this does lag behind other vehicles from this time period. It does have, like I said, built-in navigation. However, you do still need a little SD card with maps loaded on it. And when we bought this, a wife called the dealership, and it was going to be, I forget exactly how much she said, but like $150 or more from them to get a map card for this thing. And we just said, there's no way we're doing this. We'll just use Google. It's probably better anyway. And when we took our trip to New York, we used Google, and it was absolutely flawless, no problem. Honestly, I don't know if I would use a built-in navigation over that. Maybe if I had a car with Android Auto, then it would be kind of cool to transfer that to the infotainment system. But using the phone on something like this is our mount to be used with a pop socket, works just fine. Here above your infotainment screen, in this kind of cool little, underneath this raised section of dash, you do have your digital clock with your hour and minute settings, your airbag, passenger airbag reminder, and on this side is your rear seat belt indicators. So when the car started, the rear door is opened, the car says okay, somebody's most likely getting in the back, and it lights this up for you. Each one of these lights represents a seat in the rear, so we have second row and third row. And as long as one of these lights is on, that seat belt is not currently buckled. As soon as it is buckled, one of them will turn, that corresponding light will turn off. Makes it much easier to track who in the back of the car is indeed buckled in, especially with small kids who, you know, sometimes don't want to do what they're supposed to do. Very, very handy feature. We do like that a lot. And below the infotainment screen is our climate control settings. So we do have dual zone climate control that can be synced. Your front and rear defrosters for quickly turning those things on. Of course, this does the heated mirrors as well. Recirculate, fan speed, positioning of the air. That'll change on the screen above you. Here's your fan speed. Keep that down. Of course, temperature adjustment. And here's turn on the rear. And then you can adjust your rear temperature adjustment. Nice. Of course, you have a dial to adjust the temperatures up front. And of course, we can just go ahead and sync those. And now I can adjust both sides from the driver's side. Moving down even further, we have this, actually I really like this neat storage tray that runs all the way from right here, all the way to the other side. And this is great for throwing small things in here. It's got a little divided area right here. It's great for throwing pens or cards or, you know, just small stuff in there. Sometimes we throw stuff in there. Sometimes it gets cluttered with like receipts and fast food napkins and stuff, and we gotta clean it out, but that happens when you use a car. Here's something really nice. It's a cable pass-through, because down below this is where you're gonna find your USB. So here's your USB inputs. You have a USB input and an aux input, and then right here you have 2 USB charging points. And so right here, this will allow you to pass a cable through, so it's not running up here close to your shift lever or something like that. It runs right up here. Once again, really like that. It's a great little pass through for your charging cable. Also down here you do have a 12-volt cigarette lighter style outlet as well. Below that is a series of buttons. Here's the one to turn off your traction control. Here's for snow mode. Here's descent assist for if you're going down a steep hill, like coming down a mountain in Gatlinburg. That'll be nice and handy. And here is to lock all four wheels to the same speed, so you need to get out of a sticky situation or a slippery one. It'll lock them all to actually turn the same speed, much like in a traditional four-wheel drive. It won't allow for you to go very fast, but that's not the idea. All right, moving back, we do have our automatic shift lever. Pull that all the way back, and it does have S mode, which is manual shift. You can click that over, and then you can select your gear. So, and that will display up here in this information screen in the gauges. So if we pop this down, boom, first. Now, when you put it to S1, which is first, it will not go beyond first gear, obviously. And then of course you can set whatever maximum gear you want it to achieve, and you can push this all the way up to the eighth gear, which this is an 8-speed transmission, or you just put it in drive at that point. Behind that shift lever we do have the heated front seats, which are only available in the XLE trim and above. They got this little dial here that or roller rather, that you can just kind of slide up for more or less heating, and a little indicator light right there. You do have 2 front cup holders in the console with little spring tabs hold in place. Remove this for put a bigger cup in here, and put it back for a smaller cup. Now, some of the features I've shown you up front in this XLE trim are only available on XLE and up, such as the built-in navigation. Below that, you can still sync to your phone, but there's an app that Toyota had that you had to put on your phone to use nav. I forget what it was called. Also, you have to have the XLE or up to have your push button start as well as once again your heated front seats. Also, XLE and above gets a sunroof. The ones below that do not. You also get the 8-inch touchscreen option with the XLE and above. Anything below that is a 6.1-inch touchscreen. If you want your heated front seats to also be ventilated, you got to step up to the limited or the limited platinum, but you must be in one of the highest trims to get ventilated front seats as well. And with that, you also will get a heated steering wheel. This is not, it is leather wrapped, but it is not heated, which I tell you what, after driving the 2015 Town & Country that did have the heated steering wheel, being a limited itself, it's a really nice thing to have in the wintertime, but we'll live. If we look in the front seating area for these XLE, these mid-level and up trims, you do have these leather seats, these leather buckets with contrasted stitching in them. Looks really nice. It's kind of a dark bluish color. They are full power with multiple ways of adjustment. Here we have a large center console, and it's actually pretty big for a midsize SUV with 2 roll top lids. So if we slide the first one down, you see you've got a small access to reach in and grab things, or you can push this one all the way back, and then down here, I mean, you've got a deep center console storage. I got a few things in there. This will actually hold quite a lot, and down in there you do have another 12-volt cigarette lighter style outlet inside of the console. Close those back up. Looking above now, we have our automatic dimming rear view mirror. Here's our upper console with our interior lighting, as well as the controls for that. Here's our buttons for our HomeLink controls, and our buttons on either side to control the sunroof, which we don't do because, well, we just got burned by one of those a few months ago. Anyhow, and then in front of that, if we push this and drop it down, it reveals a sunglass holder, which if you push halfway up and release, now you've got this mirror. You can see the entire rear cabin. And you can also see that I'm shooting on a Galaxy phone because, honestly, it's the greatest camera I've ever had. And I will go ahead and show you down here in the footwell. These are not the factory Toyota floor mats. As you can see, they should be, you know, more made to fit, and they would have a place for these anchors to go in that turn and lock them into place. Car's only 3 years old. I don't know what happened to the floor mats. I don't understand what people do with their mats in 3 years that they're not included with the car when they sell it, but that's what we have. Whatever, it works. And they mostly, for the most part, match the color of the carpet, so at least they got that right. All right, now we're going to shoot Doug DeMuro style for the rear seat. So I'm sitting in the rear. These seats are all the way back, and so are the front seats. And this is my legroom. This is actually really good for anything really, but especially a midsize.
Headroom is absolutely great, absolutely no complaints. And all the seats in this vehicle are relatively comfortable. Like I said, we drove this thing to New York and back from East Tennessee, and no one really complained of comfort. I only had one problem, that's just because my knees hate it when I drive for long periods of time, but that's nothing to do with the car. But yeah, it's actually pretty comfortable back here. You know, there's really no complaints. It's a decent place to be. Obviously, it's not high luxury, but it doesn't need to be. It's a family mid-sized SUV. All right, now getting a little more detailed about the back seat. So here's our rear doors, and each one does have a sunshade over it, which is manual. You just pull it up and lock it into place. And they'll block out the sun for babies or anyone sensitive, or you just don't like bright sun. Once again, here's your power window controls. All your typical door panel stuff. You do have a cup holder in the rear doors as well as the front doors. Here we have second row captain's chairs. Now these are optional starting with the XLE trim, and I believe in higher trims they become standard. But up to XLE, the standard configuration is 3 across seating. But you can option it with the captain's chairs, which I really like that this one was optioned with them. We'll go ahead and climb into them, and we can see between them we have a little set of cup holders and a table. So we just fold that up, and you got a space to put 2 drinks and a little table-like space just to set small items. You know, maybe put your phone, set your phone there, or whatever. Obviously nothing big, but it's great, it's handy, and when you don't need it, just pull up on the handle and it folds down out of the way. Up here on the back side of the center console, we do have our rear climate controls with fan speed and temp controls. Now this is a 3-zone climate, so you have front, and then the third zone is everything behind the front row. So everything you do here controls the second and third row climate. It does have the LCD screen in it. You can adjust the position of the air much like you can up front. Down below that, we do have 2 more USB charging ports, and we have a 120 volt household style port, although it is only a 2-prong. It is not a grounded 3-prong, so you can't run anything with a 3-prong plug in this vehicle. I tried to use a laptop computer, and no, it wouldn't do it. Overhead in the second row is not much to look at. Now you do have your climate vent and your interior light right on each side, one there and one there, sitting there right there together. So there's nothing blowing out of the rear of the center console or even in front of you up here like in some cars, which probably would be more preferable, but that's just how they did it. I wish more cars would do like Volvo and put them like right there in the B pillar. I really liked that, and I think I saw that on a Toyota Tundra once too. That would be really cool, but that's what you get in the Highlander. All right, now I'm going to climb into the third row, which is it ain't gonna be fun. I'm already a big guy. The third row is a place where the Highlander does suffer compared to some of its other rivals. But to access the third row, you got 2 levers here on the side of your second row seats. This one, pull this rear one, and it tips and can be slid forward. Now it is worth noting that if you are stuck in the back in the third row and you want to get out, there is an additional lever right here, which performs the same function as this big lever right here. Now, to climb into the rear. It's not hard to climb in, it's just hard to fit. But now to climb into the rear. So I'm just going to stick and I'm going to put 1 foot in here first, and I'm going to pull myself into the third row. Now, I tip the seat back, and then I can put it back into position. However, as you can probably tell, it is not slid all the way back. If I bring it all the way to where someone in the second row would be comfortable, I can latch it into place, but I am absolutely squeezed in here. I don't know if you can tell, but my right leg is between the backs of the second row seats. My left knee is pinned between the seats and the inside the fender well portion of the third row. This is not a place for adults. This is for children. This is for very small children. Maybe short adults if the second row is willing to move forward a little bit, but this is not great. The other problem back here is headroom. There isn't any. There is no headroom for an average-sized adult like myself who's 6 feet or more. I mean, you can't sit up straight back here. Now you have to hunch, and it's just not a comfortable situation. It's usable, but you want to reserve it for children. And now I'm going to get back out, which could be just as fun as getting in. Oh. Yeah. That was unfun. All right, now standing inside the rear door, I'll show you the rest of the third row. It is worth noting that you do have 2 cup holders there and 2 there, 2 on each side, so your 3 small children can have 4 drinks back here. The headrests on the back of the seat. Now that's their resting position. That's best for when you want to fold the seats down. Those can be raised up. Up here is the seat belt for the center portion. It has 2 parts, one that plugs into right here, and then of course the other, which then allows you to bring the lap belt over and plug it into right here. You do have similar climate vents in the third row to the second row, the vent and interior light, both on that side and on that side. So at least in the third row, you get some cooling or heating depending on the time of the year it is. Still, definitely not usable. Here's a view of the leg room with the second row pushed all the way back to where second row people are comfortable. Once again, this is not even close to a class leading third row seat. Really, if you want good third row seating, you're stepping up to full size, or there's even some competitors, which I forget which ones they are, that have a little bit more room in the third row. Kids, that's it, kids. All right, we'll get into the rear cargo area now. I know this is not a Toyota feature. This is something my wife made because she's a huge fan of the show Highlander, and that's the big catchphrase in the show, so she definitely had to make that sticker. Literally, before we had it for a week, she had that made and I put it on. Anyway, to open up, push the button behind the logo next to the backup cam, and the gate rises on its own. Now, at least on ours, it does prefer to be used by power operation. It makes a lot of noise, beeping noises. It doesn't like you doing it manually. Anyway, here's the rear cargo room with the third row seats in place. Now here, before we start talking about cargo volume and seats folded and whatnot, let's talk about storage. Now back here you do have 2 storage areas. One is if you pick up this part of the floor, you've got your tire tools. Behind this cover here, you've got your jack. And then of course you got a little bit more open storage right here. I usually keep her jumper cables there. And you got a little bit off to the side here, just where you can put small items. Over here, if we pull this lid out of the way, we do have another relatively deep storage area for just putting whatever you need to not roll around or to be hidden from view, although you do have tinted windows. And if I can put that back correctly, there we go. Now here, our rear seat, we have 1 child seat anchor for the top tether. It's not 3, just 1. So you're only if you are putting a child seat here, you're putting it in the center. Probably gonna be easier to work that way anyway, I don't know. Let's go ahead and drop the third row and talk about a little bit more. So to drop the third row, just pull on this strap and push it forward. It drops right down. Same thing, pull on the top strap and throw it forward. They are not power operated, but honestly, it's way quicker to just drop them down than wait on the power system to do its thing. With that folded down, you can see there are 4 anchor points in the back of the car. They fold out. So here's 1 here, there's 1 there, and then looking backwards towards the opening, there's 1 here and 1 over here. We do have a rear cargo light, although I've never been impressed by these even on modern cars, but you have it if you think you could use it. Otherwise, nothing really noteworthy about the rear cargo area of this vehicle. One shortcoming that I do see is there's absolutely no power plugs back here of any kind. There's not a 12-volt cigarette lighter style. There's not a 120 house style. There's not a USB. There's no power connectivity in the third row or cargo area of this vehicle, which I think is a little bit of a shortcoming considering how popular SUVs are now and how many things that automakers are packing into them. Now, if you want to put the third row back up, just simply pull on this longer strap. It'll pull into place, and you use the top strap to kind of adjust it.
The same thing on the driver's side, pull it up, top strap to adjust, and your long strap actually has a little bit of Velcro, so you can just kind of stick it to the back of the seat and it won't go flopping around everywhere.
With the third row in its upright position, the Highlander features 13.8 cubic feet of cargo space, which my understanding is not exactly class leading. There are mid-size SUVs with more storage behind the third row. So this is actually one of your shorter mid-size SUVs. If you mostly run with the third row down, it's not going to be a big deal. But if you have it up, this is what you get, 13.8 cubic feet. If you fold the third row seats down, you do get 42.3 cubic feet of cargo space, which is much better. I can fit in it. I can't lay in it, but I can fit in it. All right, now you can also fold flat the second row seats as well. So in order to do that, first pull the large lever and then pull this smaller one down below. And that will allow for that seat back to drop all the way down. Do that on both sides and you get 83.7 cubic feet of storage space. Let's look at that from the rear. Once again, that's 87.3 cubic feet of cargo space in this vehicle below XLE trim. For some reason, the XLE loses a half a cubic foot, so it's 83.2. But still, now you got room to slide some large objects in there. You know, maybe some, I don't know, drywall, plywood of certain sizes. I don't know why you would in this car, but you know, if you wanted to, maybe in a small dresser, twin size bed. You got cargo space now.
Now there is one handy little feature in the rear cargo area that I'll talk about, and it's right here. Now this is for when you have the third row of seats folded down and you don't want the seat belt just kind of flopping around in the way. So this is really cool. So pull your seatbelt buckle up, slide the belt in here, and then push the seatbelt buckle right here. And now that allows you to push the seat belts out of the way so they're not getting in the way. There's one of those on each side of the third row. And as you can see right here, there's one on each side for the second row. So you can have all four seats folded down and all four seat belts pushed out of the way to give you just the absolute most room possible in the back of this car.
All right, now let's talk about engine options, and ignore my little cheat sheet here, because without that I actually have to remember things, and anybody knows me knows that ain't gonna happen. So if you were to choose the base LE trim level of the Highlander, it's getting a standard 2.7 liter inline 4-cylinder engine with 185 horsepower and 184 pound-feet of torque, mated only to a 6-speed automatic transmission. Now this is only in the LE trim. It is the 3.5 liter V6, which is present in this one, was optional at that time. However, it would not have been mated to the 6-speed, it would have been mated to the 8-speed. Now, if you step up above LE, the only engine option available is the 3.5 liter V6, this engine right here. This produces 295 horsepower, 263 pound-feet of torque, and once again, it is mated only to an 8-speed automatic transmission. Now you could step it up one step further and get the hybrid version. Now most trims were available in a hybrid. Now, that features the same engine plus 2 electric motors and a nickel metal hydride battery, mated to a CVT transmission. That combination will produce 306 horsepower. Now CVT sounds scary, but from what I understand, Toyota makes a pretty good one. So if you want to go hybrid and get a little bit better fuel economy, that should not be a big issue. All Highlanders are offered standard with front-wheel drive configuration. However, at the time, for an additional $1,460, you could have optioned in all-wheel drive, which this vehicle has. As far as fuel economy is concerned, and yes, I'm going to read my cheat sheet while I do this because I hand wrote it and well, that sucks. Anyway, for your 4-cylinder engine, your mileage is going to be about from 19 to the low 20s in MPGs for city, and from the mid to high 20s for highway driving. Step up to the 3.5 liter V6 and it ain't much better. It's roughly the same. You're talking about 20 to low 20s city, and of course mid to high 20s highway. So if you're thinking about the 4-cylinder, think about the V6, because your fuel economy is almost hardly improved at all with the 4-cylinder, and that's just a much weaker engine. This V6 is going to be able to pull this thing along a lot easier. Now, if you do step up to the hybrid, then your city mileage steps up to right around the 30 mpg range, and then your highway mileage is about the mid to high 20s. So really the best way to squeeze more mileage out of a Highlander is to get the hybrid. And I believe those estimates are mostly true for the fuel economy, because like I showed you inside, we are averaging about 22-ish miles to the gallon in combined driving. Most of the driving in this thing is around town, and there's not a lot of interstate driving. And you know, we're not always gentle either. Sometimes you just really got to hammer it down to get out into traffic, or you got to keep up with stuff on the interstate, or whatever. So 22 average, that's about what we're getting. That's what you should probably expect from a non-hybrid V6 Highlander. All right, let's talk about cost for the Toyota Highlander. Now, I looked up the pricing, and back in 2018, your base model LE with the 4-cylinder engine, front-wheel drive, would have cost you right around $32,200. Now, if you step up about mid-range to what this is, this car would have been, without all-wheel drive, about $40,200, so right around 40 grand. If you had stepped up to the absolute top of the line, limited platinum hybrid, you're talking about $49,500, so nearly $50,000 for the absolute top of the line Highlander back in 18. Now, on all of these, to upgrade to all-wheel drive was only an additional cost of $1,460. So this vehicle that we're in, brand new, should have cost right around the neighborhood of $41,500, or something like $41,600. So about almost $41,000 to $42,000 new. Now, to pick one of these up now, I went online, looked it up, and most of these was similar mileage to ours, which is, we got ours with 32,000 miles on it. It's got 38 or something like that. I forget what the number was, but it's the upper 30,000 miles. Right now, going for mid to upper $30,000 range. And that's what ours was priced at back in June when we got it. What was that? Almost 4 months ago. It was about it was either $35,000 or $37,000. That was the price tag on this car. So they've not depreciated very much at all in the last 3 years. If anything, maybe they're worth a little bit more than they would have been a year ago. Right now, this is October 2021, and anybody that knows the 2021 car market due to COVID knows it's insane and everything is worth more money. That being said, though, yes, there are competitors that might have a few more features. They might even have more engine power, more cargo space. But what you're getting with Toyota is the legendary Toyota reliability. So when you're weighing the options, think about, if you're thinking about a midsize SUV, do you want one that you're going to throw away in 3 years or 5 years because the transmission's dead, or you know, it ain't doing it for you? Or do you want something that's going to last a while? You don't have to buy a car for some time. You know, $30,000 is a lot of money. What are you going to put that 30 grand into? All right, let's drive this thing. So now, you know, this is, again, not the most powerful mid-size SUV there is, but it's still got plenty of power to get up and go, and it does that very well, especially with the all-wheel drive system. From a driving perspective, I mean, it's really nice. It's quite comfortable in here. It's easy to drive. You know, as with most modern cars now, you've got electronic power steering instead of hydraulic, and so that really helps with the ease of steering. The 8-speed transmission shifts very well. You can't really hardly even feel it. It's not intimidating at all. Visibility is, for the most part, really, really good. You do have a small rear window, not as small as I've seen in other things. You know, like certain Range Rovers, it's small but usable, and it's a very good car. We've quite enjoyed this thing the time we've had it. Now, Toyota claims that this V6 all-wheel drive can pull up to 5,000 pounds. With your 4-cylinder, you're only getting 1,500, and with hybrid, you're getting, I think, 3,500. So it's rated to 5,000. Now, I'm not so sure if I believe that or not. If you go back and watch a video where we pulled a trailer with a couple of freezers on it to New York and back, we'll throw a card up here for that right about now.
you can see it's doing a little bit of a squat, and it's not a big trailer, maybe a 8-foot trailer, and then of course it was really squatty when we came back with nearly 600 pounds of beef. So you're probably talking maybe about 1,000, maybe a little more than 1,000 pounds on it, and was already doing a bit of a squat. So I'm not so sure if I believe the 5,000, but it still has plenty of pulling power, plenty of maneuverability, and it's actually not the worst handling thing either. Alright, it may be a mid-size SUV, but we're still going to see how this thing handles some curvy stuff. Now, I'm sure there's vehicles that handle better, there's SUVs that do better than this, and obviously no mid-size SUV is meant to take corners. And excuse me, I've got some stuff sliding around over here that's in that nearly empty center console. But I gotta say, it seems to handle better than a mid-sized family SUV has any business handling. Now you got some body roll. I mean, it's a tall box, although it's not boxy, but it's a tall mid-sized SUV. But it still seems like it does okay. Like I said, better than a mid-size has any business doing. After this straight, there's going to be some good ones. Yeah, it's okay. I mean, like I said, it's not a canyon carver. It's not meant for curves, and especially stuff like this when you want to go way slower. But I've got to say, it's probably the most confident I've ever been in a vehicle's handling as far as, normal family type vehicles go. So if you do need to get somewhere quickly, if you do need to get out of a hairy situation and do a little swerving or whatever the case may be, this thing can handle it, and it's got plenty of power for the passing and the acceleration. Alright, as we finish the drive, I want to talk about some of the driver aids that this thing has. And ignore my phone making noise. The ones we really like are, of course, the blind spot monitoring, which you're going to get about lower mid-level and up. The base isn't going to have it, but in this XLE you do have blind spot monitoring, which is a very nice thing to have. You're also got rear traffic alert, which I really like. So if you're backing up, not only do you have the aid of the backup camera, but you've also got the rear cross traffic alert. So if something's coming up from either side while you're trying to back up, it'll alert you of that. But our absolute favorite features are the lane keep assist and the radar cruise control. Now, the wife doesn't like lane keep assist as much because she finds it annoying. It beeps a lot if you're kind of a swayy type of person. But you turn that on, it'll monitor the lines on the road, and it'll give you a little display up in the cluster. Let me see if I can make that turn on. Oh, probably not. At least not now. Anyhow, you turn that on, it has a little display, it shows the car between two lines, and if you start to drift over a line, it'll start beeping, it'll flash that line on the screen, and it'll nudge the steering wheel, it'll nudge the steering to help guide you back in between the lines. So if you're not paying attention, or the kids are distracting you, or if you're sleepy like I tend to be sometimes, it's kind of a help to keep you from running off the road. But the absolute best thing this has is the adaptive cruise control. You may also hear it referred to as radar cruise control. And that's a really great system that you turn it on, you choose from 3 different following distances, and set that to determine how close or how far behind the car in front of you that you stay. Now, it'll always maintain the minimum 2-second gap that is recommended for safe driving, and it'll maintain that following distance. If the car in front of you slows down, it'll slow down with it. You set your speed like any other cruise control, and it will try to maintain no more than that speed. But if the car in front of you slows down, it'll slow down with it. If that car speeds back up, it'll speed up until it reaches that set speed. Or if you merge out from behind that car, or it merges from in front of you, the system will automatically put the vehicle back up to the speed that you had set. Now, unlike some higher end cars like Mercedes and such, it does not work below 30 to 32 miles per hour. Once you get down that low, the cruise control system disables, and it is up to you to not hit any vehicles in front of you. But we used it on the trip to New York and back. Even pulling the trailer is an absolute, just a great system to use. Compared to old school systems where, especially on modern interstates where it can get so crazy, you hit the brakes and you have to reset the cruise and all this stuff manually. The system just does it all for you, and it actually works very, very, very well. So very pleased with that. Definitely one of our favorite features of this car.
So there you have it. There's the 2018 or third generation Toyota Highlander. This one being the XLE all-wheel drive. The mid-size SUV market is extremely competitive right now. SUVs are more popular than they've ever been. More and more companies are considering not even making sedans anymore. So when you're shopping for a mid-size SUV, that's going to become a very long shopping list, a very long list of options to consider. You've got this, you've got the Honda Pilot, which is another great one. Ford Explorer, Dodge Durango, Volkswagen Atlas. You've got all kinds of different options to pick from. So I hope that when you're shopping for a new midsize SUV, if you're in the market for one, at least a used one, or even new, because they're still making them, definitely put the Toyota Highlander somewhere near the top of your list. Go check it out, go drive it, because we highly recommend this. And I'm always going to highly recommend anything made by Toyota because, well, it's a Toyota. Now, I failed to mention one thing up until this point. Make sure if you are looking at one, to go to the nhtsa.gov website and enter your VIN to see if there's any active recalls on it. This 18 has an active recall for the possibility of the fuel pump failing. But that's the only thing that I found that could be a potential issue with this car. And once again, if it does fail, take it to the dealer, it's under recall. Not a problem. But anyways, I hope you've enjoyed this full review of this 2018 Highlander, and I hope that it'll help you to make a decision when it comes time to buy a new mid-size family SUV. We love this thing. We've only had it just about 3.5 months, and we already love it. Yes, it's more expensive than what we had before. $35,000 to $37,000, that is a lot of money. But as my dad taught me growing up, you get what you pay for. If you pay for Toyota quality and reliability, then you're going to be happy. If you pay for garbage, you're going to get garbage. So once again, definitely make this one of your choices. And I hope if you do end up with one of these that you'll be very, very happy with it, just like we are. Thanks everybody for watching. I hope to see you again in the next one. If you want to see more from me, make sure to subscribe to my channel, That Car Vlog channel. Follow me on social media at That Car Vlog channel, on Facebook and Instagram. And if you happen to have anything you'd be willing to let me review and drive on the channel, I always drop a list down in the description. It's a link to a list anyhow, a list of cars that I compile as I think of them that I'd be interested in reviewing and driving on the channel. But of course, any and all offers are greatly appreciated and accepted. Hit me up on social media if you do have anything. We'll try to work something out. Especially if you're in the East Tennessee, or maybe at least within a couple hundred miles of that. I'm highly interested in that. I can't travel too far, but I'm willing to travel at least some small distance to do a review. Anyways, once again, thank you guys so much for watching. Hope to see you in the next one. Y'all take care now, and happy shopping. Let's set up this shot. What is it? I'm too big for it to close all the way.